Here we are with another edition of Reminiscing with History Makers. Today we're visiting with Steve Souder from the Virginia chapter. Welcome, Steve.
Well, thank you very much for the warm welcome, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to share with you my APCO experience. I'm a proud APCO member for 34 years, having joined in 1982, and I can truthfully say that APCO has had one of the most profound impact on my career in public safety communications. I can't imagine that I would have been as successful in doing what I've done in the profession were it not for APCO. They have taught me so much. They have exposed me to so many things. I have been blessed to come to know so many both APCO employees and APCO members across the United States and actually around the world. It has been a resource and an inspiration for me, providing me insight into what was going on in our profession currently and what was expected to go on in our profession in the future. And in almost every case, it has prepared me well to meet the challenges that came my way as my career progressed. I just hope that other APCO members, both current and yet to be APCO members, will find their experience with APCO to be as rewarding as it has been for me. I cannot give back to APCO all that APCO has given to me, but any way that I can, I try to, and I always find that experience to be just so rewarding. I am fortunate, even though I am a member of the Virginia chapter, to also have remained a member of the chapter that I originally was in when I joined APCO in 1982, which is the Mideastern chapter. And I maintained all of my friendships and my contacts in that chapter as well. And it has allowed me, at least as a dual chapter member, to have the benefit of two chapters to call home. One maybe a little more so than the other, but nevertheless two chapters to call home, and two groups of people that I know I can call upon anytime for any reason and get the kind of support and advice and information that I may be looking for at that moment in time, and they know that they can call me. So to APCO, thank you. Thank you so much for providing to me so many things in my long career. And I wish APCO and all of its members present and in the future the very best of luck.
Steve, can you describe what course drew you to join APCO? What particular person was influential in getting you to join?
That's an interesting question. Back in 1982, I was a member of the Washington, D.C. Fire Department, assigned to the Communications Division, and the Deputy Fire Chief that I worked for at that moment in time had himself just been exposed to APCO. And he came back from his first APCO meeting and he says, "Steve, I have to tell you how interesting and informative this organization was called APCO, which I had never heard about until that time." And he says, "You have to join. You have to join." And I said, "Okay, what do I need to do?" And back then, of course, pre-internet and pre-everything else that we take so much for common today, there were paper application forms, and he got me the application form, and I filed it, and the next APCO meeting, which was only about 3 or 4 months in the future, I was there, and with one meeting, I realized that his advice to me and his suggestion to me to join APCO was spot on.
Can you describe your APCO activities at the state chapter and national level during your tenure?
I sure can, but there's not enough time in this video to do that. I have served as the Virginia chapter president on 2 terms. I was the Virginia chapter representative to the APCO Executive Council for 12 years. I have been on so many APCO committees and task force and work groups, including right now, that I could ever count, but every one of which exposed me to an ever-enlarging group of APCO members, of APCO opportunities, and of APCO challenges. I have also had the good fortune to represent APCO internationally on more than a few occasions, when at that time associating with and being kind of a liaison to, at that moment in time, the Canadian chapter of APCO, the British chapter of APCO, and the chapter of APCO that represented Australia and New Zealand. So APCO has kind of opened my eyes and widened my horizon, and I have friends around the world that are APCO members, albeit by a different chapter. And again, it has just been an extraordinarily rewarding opportunity that I've been afforded, all because of APCO.
What do you like most about APCO?
Easy question, the people. You will find, as I have found, that they're just good people. All of a common mindset to serve the public, dedicated beyond words, knowledgeable beyond words. We support each other without hesitation. APCO's membership today of more than 25,000, I don't know all of them for sure, but I'm confident to say that I could call any one of them up and tell them who I was and what I needed, and they would help me, as they know they could call me up and I would help them, even though we may not have ever met each other.
What do you think APCO does better than anyone else?
Communicate. Absolutely communicate. If you just think about the name of APCO, the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials, but don't be persuaded by the name officials. It's not just officials as you think of a chief or a director. It's really people in the business, because APCO has the good fortune of being comprised of many people, call takers, dispatchers, line supervisors, training coordinators, technicians, technologists, all kinds of people. Everything that makes public safety communications work is represented by APCO in one way or another.
What does APCO need to do to move forward and stay current?
Move forward and stay current. Simply that. We have only begun to see what communications can do for public safety. Our frame of reference was in the past, but the past is the past, and the future is really what we should be focusing on. Learn from our past, benefit from our past, build on our heritage, but certainly look to the future and be the leaders and the guiders of not only future members, but also of our profession with all that it encompasses, particularly in this rapidly changing technological environment that we call communications.
Steve, this is our last question. What is your most favorite APCO memory?
Wow, that's hard to answer because there's been so many of them. But I have to say, probably the formation of what was called the APCO International Alliance, which was an activity that had its foundation about 10 years ago, when the chapters that I had mentioned earlier, the British chapter of APCO, the Canadian chapter of APCO, the Australian, New Zealand chapter of APCO, realized that they themselves were growing. And they wanted to become more independent, and yet they wanted to stay under the APCO umbrella. And there was formed this alliance, a group of people, representatives from each of the entities, including APCO International or USA. I was very fortunate to be the APCO delegate on that delegation and work with my friends and my colleagues in Canada and the UK and the Australia, New Zealand area, and with a common goal of being respectful for each other's cultures and areas of the world, but recognizing that we had an awful lot in common. The APCO Global Alliance was formed, and it's very rewarding and satisfying to me to have been a part of that formation. But it's only one of so many memorable opportunities that I had to both give to and receive from APCO.
Well, thank you, Steve, for sharing with us your experiences with APCO. We really appreciate your contribution to the organization and your being here to share with us.
And thank you once again. I would not be what I am were it not for APCO.